We're going to be talking about the black man's struggle for power and influence in the world. And we're going to be talking about a lot of developments, not only in the United States or in other parts of the West. Let's talk about the black man in Africa and other places. Lawyer Henderson podcast is live. The black man's struggle for power and influence in the world. Thank you for listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show today. Like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And basically, we are here live on YouTube here. And we're talking about, the black man's influence in the world and how white supremacy works in this society, keeping the black man down and keeping him away from the economic system. The black man's influence, basically, however, despite the setbacks, seem to be growing, especially in Africa and other parts. We're going to be talking there about a lot of oppressive tactics that Europeans use, Europeans use, and they help with their black boule flunkies to try to keep us down, trying to keep us in a segmented labor market. And today we'll be talking about the growing Chinese influence in the world. But these white oppressive tactics against black people by the Western nations is the most important topic. And we're not saying that all these other groups are not trying to basically continue to do their part by helping these white supremacists to keep us down. When we talked there about the legal immigrants, remember, we talked about the fact that Amos Wilson taught us that they are basically bringing illegal immigrants over to pile up on top of black people in their own neighborhoods so that they can basically help to undermine our struggle for power and our struggle for economics. And this basically means that they're going to continue to ignore our economic conditions and concerns. Now that they basically have a so-called black woman who is running for presidency of the United States, Kamala Harris, we have to basically look at, white people, European and the white Jewish tactics when it comes to them trying to influence the American politics and try to influence black people. And so we look at these different types of oppressive tactics that have been used against us. Like I said, keeping us away from financial opportunities, keeping us away from money, making sure that we do not get the finances we need in order to get business loans and grants and other things so that we can basically have to work for these folks. Still another modern day slavery here. Okay, so tonight I should say today, because we're here at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're talking there about the struggle for Black men and the influence of what we're trying to gain influence in the world. Our struggle has been going on ever since slavery, right? Ever since we met the Europeans. And I think one of the problems that we're facing now is that we have a lot of other groups that is coming into the United States, other groups that coming in who's been in African nations, and they basically are trying to they're continuing to try to take all the resources away from Black people. Like I mentioned in my other video essay, about how the illegal immigrants, they only come over here to take the benefits and intangibles from African Americans and the United States. And this is all by design. This is all to basically keep a legitimate people who have a legitimate grievances like Black people do in America because of white supremacy and because of slavery and because of Jim Crow laws and other things. Black people are the only my so-called minorities in the United States that has a legitimate grievances, and white people don't like to basically, to recognize that. They don't want to recognize that because they know that we have a legitimate grievances. Okay. Before we go into depth into the conversation here, of course, it was announced that old California Gavin Newsom down there had basically, I guess, went behind closed doors and got the Congressional Black Caucus to sell us out, and so that the reparations bill down there in California would not be passed. And you have to expose the Boule Negroes down there, the flunkies, and the in the Black Caucus, wherever they might be, that they sold us out. So the reparation bill never got into his desk. And this is a man who's trying to run for president. So here's the thing. This is the reason why we don't basically need to support any party, regardless of whether it's Democrats or Republicans, because you'll see there, the white people, their whole entire game is to basically engage in anti-Black racism. Doesn't matter what kind of bootleg Negroes who they get to criticize folks who raised this point. And because it have worked for them for 150 years. So basically, if it worked for you for 150 years to keep somebody in an oppressive situation, why would they change it? Why would they do that? Okay, they want. So now we see that reparation bill was killed. It was basically, if we are not dealing with the reparation bill being killed by the liberals, then we have to deal with racist white conservatives who wants to file a lawsuit against certain cities or states or whatever, or people who wants to pass reparations for Black people in other communities. You see, we talked about this. So the Black man's struggle for power basically is not only the white man's influence and white people's way of trying to keep us down, but they bring these other hostile groups against us as well. These other races, these Hispanics, Latinos, sometimes Native Americans, other groups, Chinese and other people. These are hostile other people that comes over to the United States, and they're more hostile. They're more hostile, including our Black immigrants that come from Africa, the Caribbean, and other places, come to the United States, and they become more hostile towards Black people. They become more hostile to the people who fought for immigration to be here, just like we did in the 1960s, you see, helping them at the time of the Civil Rights Movement, okay? And now these other groups have turned their back on us. And basically, we continue to basically help other people. And then when it's come to our issues, our problems, these other groups cannot basically find the will to support us. And now we become more educated in this. So it's interesting about talking about the growing or a struggle for influence in America, in the world, other places as well. I just saw Xi Jinping of China, who basically met with 51 African leaders. Okay. He said that there was a summit, like I said, that he met with these African leaders and pledged that he was going to pledge $50 billion to African nations. 50 billion. Okay. Now, typically, I'm always kind of leery when white folks and Chinese people give these nations money. I was shocked to see, though, that our young warrior leader from Burkina Faso, Abraham Traore, did not attend. I didn't see Abraham Traore at the African and Chinese Summit. Now, if y'all seen him, let me know, because he wasn't there. I think that Abraham Traore did not want to basically be there because I think he is on the sense of that, yeah, I will let Russia come in to help us, but the Chinese I'm a little bit more worried about, because if they're offering 50 billion, that means that they're doing certain things where they're giving loans, and they know that this could keep African nations in debt. And so they're working mostly with Russia in order to basically build wealth and power for the Burkina's people. I think one of the things that he's still facing is that they're trying to overthrow him. There was a lot of attempts on his life, of course, and when you're a leader like him, he knows that death is always something that you have to prepare for when you basically try to go against the Western nations and their ways of trying to overthrow African leaders that they don't like, or Black people that they don't like, and who is basically trying to do things specifically for your people, you see. Now, the Chinese basically given $50 billion to these African nations. I'm kind of like worried about how that money would be split up. And I seen old Ramaphosa come there as well. Him and Xi Jinping has a great relationship along with Russia, Vladimir Putin. Okay, so to get 51 African nations to come to the summit, the Africa and China summit, it's kind of interesting. And there was also a in general, I guess, got downplayed by the BRICS nation. The UN wanted basically to be invited. I think the UN general wanted to be invited to the BRICS, to be invited into the BRICS nation or their organization. And I think that the UN general was turned down. You see, it's very important to understand, though, that when you set up like a huge council or a huge body where African nations don't have like any kind of presence at the United Nations. And then when they join something like the BRICS or whatever, and then you try to join their organization, yeah, they have a reason to put you out, because, they argued about this. And even Abraham Traore talked about the fact that they basically don't have any kind of seat at the UN Security Council. Why do African nations, why don't have, any kind of bodies in the UN Security Council. That's important. And so I think the BRICS nation basically is going to do certain things that's different from that of the United Nations. Because you remember, everything's set up by the West, including the United Nations, which is, of course, in America here in New York. So I think one of the things that African nations are doing is they're trying to basically grow in influence. Speaking of influence, of African influence, remember, Zelensky messed with them. And then that old racist fool had the nerves to say African people should not be involved in European, conflicts and all that. Remember when he said that? And it was like, okay, these folks there, they just have a huge contempt for black folks, but yet they want us around so they can use us in certain parts of ways. And this is why they basically only want to deal with us when they know that they can get something out of it. And black people wind up empty-handed, because if you basically don't follow the money, like most black people, we don't follow the money, and before you know it, the white folks went home with a bag, and you still and you go empty-handed, because you want some symbolism. And so we got to be more smarter than that. We got to be very much aware of why somebody wanting to participate, hang around with you, do business with you, or want you to basically or pledge money to you so they can influence certain things inside your nation, or get their people to take over parts of your land and stuff like that. We got to be very, very careful about that. And African people have to be also careful about that. But white folks' oppressive tactics against black people are slowly declining, as the old civil rights generation and the baby boomer generation, the other black people in Africa, the old agers and all these people, they are dying out quicker than ever before. And so the influence are different. Remember, if you've been listening to me for a while, you hear me always talk here in America about the civil rights generation and their eldest children. Okay, these are the civil rights eldest children are your Kasim Reeds and your Fonnie Willis and your Martin Luther King. These are the civil rights generation's eldest children. They thought that they were going to continue the same type of style of leadership that Jesse and Al Sharpton and all the rest of them had done, and thinking that we would be influenced by, we as the black youth now will be influenced by the old civil rights generation's eldest kids. Okay? And that's not really the truth no more. In fact, not only is the younger black generation moving away from their great grandparents, they are also moving away from the ideology of the civil rights movement, because they feel like there's no connection. And of course, that we've been talking about this recently in the black media, how the old civil rights generation ideology, and even Dr. King's ideology of nonviolence and other things, turn the cheek and all that, we're basically not influenced by that as young black people, because if white people hit us, we're going to hit them back. And we're going to also, make sure that there's a growing number of us who basically do not align ourselves with allowing, just like the old civil rights generation, when they allowed, this abuse against them, to basically give some type of example of we should all, overcome and all that stuff. That's not working on the younger generation. Okay. And so they understand that. The other thing is that even now putting a black woman or black man in office is not really something that is impressing us because we know how white folks do it. They'll go find somebody who's not even a citizen. They might have been a citizen, but their parents and ancestors from another country, and they come over here and they're not really 100% black, and they try to go to our HBCUs and other things because the HBCUs have sold us out. They're now letting all these other people and other races into the historically black colleges. And so before you know it, what ends up happening is you get somebody like Kamala Harris now running for president, okay, and calling herself black when it only benefits her. And that's the dangers about letting other groups and other people into your black organizations or your black community, your black business. In fact, remember when I was on Facebook, I talked a lot about minding our own black business. Okay. And other influences have stolen that from me. And that's fine. They can use it. The fact is that once we mind our own black business, our economic advantages will continue to grow up and to grow and blossom. And we continue to stay, discontent like the old civil rights generation, we're going to fall back into being, oppressed. The old civil rights generation tried to get us to overcome, get on a people who basically don't see us as leaders, don't see us as entrepreneurs, don't see us as businessmen and women. This is a community that hates black people. In fact, you're asked the question, as Malcolm taught us, that basically is that when black people have allowed these white folks to educate their kids. Malcolm, remember, he marked, is only a fool will let their enemy educate their children. You got a lot of black people sending their kids to white schools thinking that they're going to get better education. And how is they going to educate your kids and they don't even like your children? Just the ignorance of what we're going through right now. But the struggle for black people to gain power, the struggle for the black man to gain power, and we see certain rise of different types of folks who is influencing enough of the younger generation that they're not going to basically continue the ideology of the old civil rights generation. And this has frightened white folks as well because they don't know how they're going to do this. So it forced them to now try to put a black woman in office because the white Jews are also behind this as well. They used the Holocaust and to try to influence America, and they only less than 2% of the U.S. population, but they got 90% of all of the policies basically goes through the Jewish community. How is that? You know what I mean? And so now what they're doing is because, Kamala Harris is married to a white Jewish man, they got all the media influence talking about, Kamala Harris is this, and she's the next president of the United States, and she's going to get this done, and she's going to get that done. And she's the vice president and ain't done a damn thing for black folks, just like Obama did. So even when a black person is trying to get into power, they struggle to what? To do things for other black people. They ignore black people's problems, which is why the growing numbers of black people who have left the Democratic Party is somewhat understanding. In fact, we should have basically never joined the Democrats at all, because it has been the Democratic Party that have stifled our influence in the United States. And then it has been white liberals in general, the white Jewish community. It has been this anti-hatred of black people, or anti-blackness among other groups like the Latinos, Hispanics, and all these other groups, including African immigrants who had continued to try to keep Black people away from power, keeping them into this group and bubble where we basically get these folks who are coming over from other countries to now be a part of the political process. So that anybody who was who was born Black in the United States don't wield power to help other Black people who were born in the United States. And this is our struggle constantly. Okay. Now we looked at the fact that this basically is dying out because as the white man and his people are dwindling, they brought these illegal immigrants over here now to basically help them out. And Hispanics and Latinos and all these folks, they are willing to help the white supremacists. Basically be very, very careful on how you grow your relationship. You up here standing up talking about Black and Latino, they're now telling you that they are in the majority now. And they're going to influence there in states like California and the city of Los Angeles and other parts. These folks basically will show their anti-hatred against you as Black people, along with the Asians. You see? And of course, we go and buy their Chinese food and all that stuff. And these folks basically have a lot of hatred towards Black people. In fact, when Black women go into these stores, remember we talked there about that. We talked about the fact that when Black women go into those Asian stores to buy wigs and hair products and weave and all that stuff, we see pictures of them just knocking and punching Black women out, So the hatred that basically that folks have for us, but then want to use us when it's necessary and convenient to fight their battles against white supremacy, we're now learning that we have to stay away from these other groups and mind our own Black business. We talked about the fact that the Palestinians are upset that Black people are not helping them and supporting them in Gaza. And they claimed that they were helping and they came out in support for us with the George Floyd situation. Okay. And talked about, of course, the Palestinians talked there, or certain Palestinians talked about they aligned themselves with the apartheid system of the South. Remember that? They said that Nelson Mandela visited parts of the Arab community in the Middle East and solidarity with them. And all of that may have its legitimate situations, though. But the fact is that the Palestinian and the Israelis conflict, or Hamas or whatever, which is basically the same group of the Palestinians, they all basically have been fighting for years. They've been fighting for years over there. I remember basically when old Clinton was in office, old Bill, when he brought in Ariel Sharon and the other guy, what's his name? Arafat. I forget his first name. Arafat, or to the White House, and tried to settle the conflict. Then I think Hillary Clinton would hold conniving, conceiving as. I think she talked about the fact that they tried to bring them together and have peace talks. So this is something that Black people basically can't help y'all with. To talk there about a conflict that has been going on for years, Black people can't help you with that. You fight in the West Bank and all this other stuff about land, that's something that only the Palestinians and the Israelis can work out. Black people can't help y'all in that. Even if you supported that, even if we did support you, there would be a real ending of the conflict, because there's different sides, to the conflict itself. that been going on for a long time. And so, yeah, we had these Palestinian people come on and talking bad about us. Oh, we're not supporting the Palestinians, all this old stuff, and blah blah blah. Why do they want to use our influence? And why they want our influence to help their causes? We don't understand this. When y'all have so much anti-black hatred for us, but need our help when y'all basically have to go through what the white supremacists is doing. And we're saying enough of that, because we was there when we saw our parents try to help y'all, our grandparents try to help, and yet y'all turned around and did the same thing to us. Same thing with Ukraine and other European countries. I mean, other people that basically is supposed to, who identify as white, but they're actually Asian. Okay. And it's just, I mean, why do some Asians think that they are European? I just don't understand it. I don't get it. It basically, it reminds me of all of the situations of what y'all try to do to influence yourself in the United States, like suing to block affirmative action. And that basically actually helped. I'm actually glad that affirmative action was overturned. You know why I'm glad that affirmative action was overturned? Because despite the fact that I criticized the HBCUs so much, we have now a growing number of Black students enrolling in Black historically colleges now. Okay? And definitely if Trump get back in there, oh, we really gonna show our asses then. Okay? Not that we support Trump, by the way, but because we can basically turn around, not only get these illegal immigrants up out of our communities, but to cut off their money supply, and so that we can get our resources back from y'all, because y'all been ungrateful so far as illegals. So when we come back here on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show from our music break, we're going to be talking about, like I said, we're going to continue our conversation about the Black man's struggle for power and influence in the world. We'll be right back. Talking about the Black man's struggle for power and influence in the United States and even in the world. You've been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. And basically, we are back from our music break. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments. ScrewTube has us on a permanent shadow ban. They basically wrote me and said that this is a warning, and nigger, you need to just stop talking all of this black stuff. And they put me on a double and a triple shadow ban, where I'm not able to be a part of the algorithm. Okay, they only give me a few people that listen to me, and that is good. That is good because you don't need a lot of people listening to you. Because if you have a big audience, a lot of YouTubers do, they'll still shut you down because now you become so popular that you really don't need YouTube no more. And then for other YouTubers, I've seen where they shut their channel down for other things. So by us being like small and only grabbing that 3 or 4% of people in the YouTube space, that's pretty much okay with me, because it's going to be the small groups that really, really influence, the situation. To get the word out. It's the small groups. It's the people who basically are not in the majority that do most of the work. You've been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. We're talking today about the Black man's struggle for influence and power. And we keep telling you that these white folks are trying to hold on to their power, despite the fact that their numbers are dwindling. By the year 2045, remember we told you, if you've been listening, that the Europeans' population will shrink all across the world. And one of the reasons why they're bringing illegal immigrants in the United States is because, as Dr. Umar Johnson pointed out, there's 25 states where white folks are not having enough children to maintain their population. So this is the reason why you have an influx of immigrants coming into the United States, the 11 million that they have or whatever, who's already here, and more is on the way if Kamala Harris wins. There was a prediction that Kamala Harris will win the presidency of the United States, and we'll talk about that as we basically, after the debate, we'll start going in on your girl. A lot of you talking about, ooh, she's the first Black president and blah, 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 blah. Man, this woman is not the first Black woman, nothing. She's only Black when she is trying to get Black support to influence herself. She's not Black after that, okay? I like when Donald Trump pointed that out when he met with the Black journalists, the organization or the National Organization of Black Journalists or whatever they call themselves, and they don't really do no journal work. They don't do no real journal work because it's a bunch of Black people who are working for these white folks, okay? And you can't call yourself Black journalists, aligning yourself with other people's ideas who also have an anti-Black aggression against you, but you're working for them and calling yourself a Black journalist. If you were really a Black journalist, you will point, like we do in the Black media, about the anti-hatred and Black the discrimination that we go through against these folks, but you're not really a journalist, so you can't be calling yourself a Black journalist. Just say that you're a journalist, you see. Today we're talking about the struggle, the struggle of the struggle of Black men of getting power. And remember, we talked about the great African leader right now of Burkina Faso, Abraham Traore. A lot of people have been trying to kill him. A lot of them have been trying to get him to basically align himself with the West. But he had basically stayed true to the people, as should all people or leaders do. I should say. All leaders should stay true to the people who put them in office in governments. And that is a real leader when he basically refused to live in palaces in other Western countries or come to the United States and have a place to stay. He is actually doing what? He is actually making sure that he limited his income to help the Barbados people. And that's a great personification of a leader. Today on the Lawyers and Podcast Show, we're talking about the struggle for the black man to gain influence and power in the world. And what is the Chinese role? What's the Chinese role in trying to compete with the West? And everybody wants a piece of Africa. Everybody wants to take Africa over, because God has, as Amos Wilson taught us, had put African countries with all of this mineral wealth. They got a lot of mineral wealth in those nations, in African countries, that has basically have been undermined by the West. I mean, have been taken by the West and used to basically build up, France and all these other European colonizers, you see. And that's all that white people do and Europeans do. They just steal, and take, and then offer you a low value. But our great leader in Africa, Abraham Toure, he has seen this. And so the West is mad at him because now he is no longer want to align himself with Western powers. In fact, I think it was the IMF who's tried to give him billions of dollars of loan money, and he has rejected that, which is very good. Now he's with Russia, and Russia and the United States are enemies. So anytime you work with the United States enemies, they get upset with you. And old North Korea, they just find rockets everywhere around. So American enemies are basically showing off right now. Okay. And so they don't know if and Putin said that if Kamala Harris get back in there, that he would support her. He just recently said that. Okay. They don't want Trump. I don't think they want Trump in there. Well, Putin don't care either way, I guess, but because he had a relationship with Trump. So here's the thing. Let's talk about the situation at hand. But before we do that, I'm going to tell you that we're going to be talking about other topics this week. We're going to be talking about the rise of interracial marriages and dating. Now, before y'all bedwetches get excited, it's not what you think. I can hear some of y'all listen to me now. You black women who basically only marry white men. Ooh, you mean that white daddy is taking us down the aisle more than ever before? I got to finally tune in the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. I need to see how white daddy is taking us all down the aisle. No. Now, before you get your pennies in the bunch, it's not what you think, okay? Because typically white daddy only take black women down for two reasons, and that's sex and money. And the fact is that actually when you get into these interracial relationships, it's about common interests, okay? But we'll be talking about the growing numbers of interracial relationships and marriages. And these are only the situation mostly really doesn't have like a lot of black people doing it as what you think they are. These growing numbers are actually with Hispanics and white people marrying other people besides black people. But we'll talk more about it in depth coming up on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. When we come back, we'll wrap up with our conclusion to talk about our current topic, the black man's struggle for power and influence in the world. And when we come back from our music break, we will basically wrap it up and conclude our discussion for the day. You've been listening to the Lawyers and Podcast show, and basically we've been talking about the growing influence. The struggle for influence of the black man, and why all of this anti-hatred against black people. Today on the Lawyers and Podcast show, again coming up on the future topics of our show, we'll be talking about the so-called rise of interracial marriages and dating in the United States. Now, this basically is an article that just came out. Now, it's not good of what you think. So you bear with, just like I said before the music break, don't think that White Daddy is just taking you down an aisle for some reason. Because, of course, most white men, when they get with black women, it's only because of financial gain. And we're going to talk about certain types of relationships that we can give you pointers as to why it's not a good ideal to sometimes interracially date. Now, the fact is that, a lot of women, our topic is a lot of black women thought that, if we date white men, they'll treat us better than black men. Well, we have so many relationships that we can give you examples of as to how there's a current trend that white men are marrying black women and taking all of their money from them, especially these celebrity couples. Okay, so White Daddy doesn't like you for you. He is liking you because he's broke and he needs money from you. Okay, so it's not the same as if a black man take a white woman. In a sense it is, because the white woman is only with the black man for money too. Okay. So what we're seeing here is a growing a trend of interracial relationships based upon interests, okay? And so all you have to do is also tune in to shows like 48 Hours or Dateline to show you that White Daddy will kill you real quick if he don't get his way, okay? The black man, we don't have no real reason to kill our wife. We just want them to shut the hell up sometimes, a lot of times, But tune in for that. We'll discuss that. A controversial topic. But I do not shy away from controversy. If you've been listening to the Lawyers and Podcast show. Let's wrap up our discussion today. We're talking about the struggle that the black men have to gain influence and power. All these other groups are piling up on us. All these other groups are trying to influence our politics. And the white liberals and the white Jews, they're part of this. They're basically trying to bring these illegal immigrants over here to take small increments and payments out of our reparations money. Okay. And remember, old Gavin Newsom just basically told the Congressional Black Caucus, you better not send that bill to me. You got to do something with it. And this is the type of games that they play on us. Is basically anytime it's for black people, you got to shut it down. You got to avoid it. Okay. And so the younger black generation has picked up on this, and the white media out there talking about, so many people like Kamala Harris and no. Kamala Harris don't have a black agenda. And so they can use this woman who is not black to try to influence black people. And then you have the white media out there saying people influence. Just like we are basically knowing that Gavin Newsom, who is about to run for president, he cannot get the black vote if he does not sign that reparations bill. You understand? He's going to be another one that we're going to basically do just like we did with Joe Biden. We're going to hold him accountable, hold him responsible. You understand? And that's because we need money, we need influence. You just can't be handing checks out and money out to these illegal immigrants using our taxpayers' money and also using our reparations money to give it to people who are not citizens. That's just the bottom line. And Joe Biden should have been impeached for that. And so now we basically see their little games. It's all coming out now. It's seeing where Jim Crow Joe and his son, they were getting all this money from Ukraine, which they were getting all this money from other businesses overseas. They got an impeachment hearing going on now where they found out that Jim Crow Joe was basically making all this money along with his son and basically lied about a lot of things about this laptop. Oh, they got it all coming out now. And so, of course, he needed to step down, not because of his age and the dementia and all that stuff, dementia or whatever, but because of his corruption, because of his lies, because he only got in office because of COVID. And here's the thing. We talked there about how him and Kamala Harris, now we already know they're not going to do anything for black folks. She don't have no black agenda. But we talked there also about how, they trying to basically continue to bring these illegal immigrants over here so that they can basically get all of the money and all of the economics, and they can take all of the stuff. They even giving these illegal immigrants like housing and loans and business loans, things that if you basically have bad credit, you get denied for, but the illegals get an opportunity to bypass their credit. Also, in addition to that, illegal immigrants in certain countries, they don't have to even have license and updated tags and stuff. So they basically are able to get away with that. And so now they're allowing them to do a lot of things that even these white folks are getting upset about now. You see? And this is the strategy of the white liberals. And this is good that they basically are showing their asses now, because now it's up in it's up in black people's face. And that is what you need to show black people, that these folks don't give a damn about you. I don't care what you say about supporting them. They basically are not on your side, and you know it. Okay. And so now when we talk there about, remember I told you about they wanting to move, they are saying to black people, oh yeah, you can move in the suburbs. Go ahead and move in the suburbs. We will let you niggers move by us in the suburbs. We'll let you go into this community, that community. Only if we can take your land in the black community. And so they have ran out of development spots in the quote unquote suburban and white communities, that they need to now develop land in the black community, and which is why black people are running to the suburbs, and now their communities are being gentrified so they can have housing and other development for these illegal immigrants, and also they can have other businesses. So therefore, white people are not only staying in the suburbs and other parts, they can also stay in the black community, where they have their development right there, and they can influence the government and the local politicians and local judges and other folks in your community, and make money not only in the suburban areas, but also where they live there in the black communities. Since you black folks don't want to stay in your own neighborhoods, this is what they're doing now. And then they're bringing the illegal immigrants over here so that they can multiculturalize our communities, so it won't be a no such thing as a black community, that every time that there's a black problem, it's going to be like, oh, that's a multicultural problem. And you black folks, there's no such thing as a black community. And this right here is the white liberal strategy. This has been their strategy for years. And Republicans are the same way. One of the things different that I've often said about the Republican Party back in the day is that at least if they were racist, they were calling us niggers, fine, but they were giving us money. The Republicans of today has aligned themselves with the white liberals to say, oh, we're not giving you niggers nothing. That's the same thing that the Democrats do. And so they, talk about Dr. King and use Dr. King as a way to influence their policies against us. And so now what we must do, and all the time, before I go to my other thought, have you noticed that they always try to basically try to, talk to black people about criminal justice. Why is it white liberals and the white conservative always want to talk about crime with us? Criminal justice reform, as all black people are just in and out of jail and stuff. You know what I mean? These people are sick. You know what I mean? They are sick. And so now they basically know it's up in our faces now. And what y'all gonna do? See, we talked there about in the black community, in the black media, I should say, that we like our racism in our face. We're not like the Boule and all these other black people who don't want white daddy to call them a nigger silently. You know what I mean? Call me a nigger in my face. You know what I mean? Don't smile in my face and laugh and be conniving behind my back. I don't like that. Okay. But hey nigger, you call me a nigger, in my face, I'm good because at least I know where you stand. A police officer who say, "Hey, step out the car, sir." I'll be like, "Oh, you a white man on that bullshit crap. You're a white liberal police officer." But a white man who come and say, "Nigger, what did I tell you?" All right, that's more like it there. No, I'm playing. But yeah, we like our racism. Us, the black grassroots, we like our racism in our face. We really do. Because it is good to show what the white supremacists think of us in our face instead of opposed to letting some white liberal try to be nice in their conniving. Okay, Malcolm talked about that too. You know what I'm saying? Showing your teeth, and smiling to you. Malcolm taught us about that. The fox and the wolf, But we have to get this influence. We have to gain basically, we may have to, as I've been telling y'all about, we may have to tell these white folks, hey, listen, by 2045, since we are the majority, we might have to create our own currency and stop using the American dollar and see that these white folks, if you tell them that, they'll sure enough give you reparations then. You understand? And you will have the money you need if you tell them that. Okay? You've been listening to the Lawyers and Podcast Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and leave your comments. Thank you. Lawyers Show live.